Hey, I'm Bree, and this is my sister Jules. I'm an English teacher.
And I'm recovering from a 3-day weekend of drinking.
Together we drink wine as we unpack the brilliant writing of the hit 90s sitcom Boy Meets World. Cheers!
Cheers!
What are we drinking?
A wine I definitely want to be drinking after being hungover for 3 days in a row. This is Yellowtail Whoop Woo Chardonnay. They sell it by the 1.5 liters.
So, audience, we have a cousin named Lee Musho who has been on Pix 11 multiple times just talking about wine and cheese. She's a sommelier. And she writes for Eater magazine, and yeah, she knows literally everything about wine. She was basically telling me that Yellowtail has a ton of like sulfites in it to make it the same. Other wines, you'll have different flavor profiles for different seasons or like different years, right? And so with Yellowtail, they want it to taste the same. It's kind of like Coke. You always want Coca-Cola to taste like Coca-Cola no matter where you go, no matter what, and that's kind of what Yellowtail is. Stuff to it so to make it taste that way.
Yeah. I was going to say, it tastes like the color yellow.
It tastes like a tail.
Yeah. Tastes like a kangaroo's foot.
It kind of does, though. This tastes like a kangaroo, but I don't know if it's because I'm looking at a kangaroo while tasting it and implanting that into the wine.
Yeah. Well, are you getting... according to the website, you should be smelling and tasting melon, white peach, light spice, and a vanilla undertone.
No spice.
I think I can get the vanilla slightly.
I get the peach.
I want to make a sangria out of this, and it would be a good sangria.
Yeah. It would also be a great white wine spritzer. It's not too sweet. It's not too dry. It's like, I get why they just picked this flavor and said, let's just make it always taste like this. You know?
Yeah.
It's plain. I don't know anything about wine. Why did we do this? Also, apparently one of the brothers was arrested for drug trafficking.
The brothers of Yellowtail?
Yeah.
That's tea.
Let's get into the episode. So, we watched season 1, episode 13. This one is called She Loves Me, She Loves Me Not. The synopsis is Eric visits Corey's class as a high school guest lecturer. Corey thinks Topanga has a crush on him, but she actually has a crush on Eric. Air date, January 14th, 1994. Written by April Kelly. I knew this was going to be a good episode the minute I saw that she was a writer. I was really happy to be back in an episode where Feeney was his guru self again, you know? Mm-hmm. I think the moment that he shared with Eric on his patio when they were taking out the garbage together, which we're going to get to, was fantastic. Mm-hmm. One of those moments where I, as a young viewer, would learn something from Feeney.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So we start off in the classroom. Topanga, Minkus has left a paper rose on Topanga's desk. Minkus has a crush on Topanga. And we knew this because he's been very open about it and almost like crass about it. But it has turned a little bit romantic and sweet here. She calls it a paper rose. He says, actually, it isn't a rose, it's a camellia. In the language of flowers, a white camellia means perfect loveliness. At least that's what I've read. Topanga's like, well, then the person who left this for me must be a sensitive and caring soul. Corey's like, is it just me or is love blooming among the nerd set? Sean makes a joke about how last time I saw that look was right before Bambi's mother got hit by that bullet.
Ow. Thanks for helping me relive trauma.
So Corey, he's got such great acting chops. So he's like, what a movie they'd make. It's Minkus in love. Watch what happens when 48 pounds of nearsighted geek meets 10 pounds of hair from a parallel universe. And then both Corey and Sean together go, ha! Which is funny, like just in itself. Like April Kelly, like she just has a different approach to them. Like it's smarter, it's snappier, it's funnier, it's mature, you know?
Yeah. It felt like almost unnecessary to put that in there, but I appreciated that it was there, you know?
Yeah. So Topanga comes over. I think people who judge other people by their outward appearances are shallow and ignorant and will have much to answer for in their next life. Corey goes, that may be the way it works on Remulac, but here on Earth, you're a nerd, you pay. Did you get the reference?
I did not.
Remulac is the planet that the Coneheads are from.
Oh.
From that SNL skit. I just thought it was funny the way he said Remulac. Bell rings, like for class. Feeney comes in, good morning. Like, I trust y'all had a good weekend. Corey's like, I sure did. My mom baked brownies and my dad rented 2 monster movie videos. Gotta plant that seed because Godzilla's coming later. Then Sean says the funniest line in the entire episode. Because he says it totally seriously. He just goes, I sold blood.
Wait, I missed that part. What? That's all he said? I sold blood?
Yup.
Oh, man.
So Feeney's like, this morning we have a guest lecturer. The school board feels that since you're all starting the 7th grade next year, it would behoove you to have an advanced taste of the experience.
I love that word. It would behoove you. I use that like frequently in my day-to-day life.
It's a great word. So we hear a knock on the classroom door and Eric walks in. So he's the guest lecturer. And Eric's like, hi kids, I'm Eric. I'm in the 10th grade at Adams High, the school you'll all be going to next year. Minkus just goes, at least all of us who pass. And then Sean goes, hey Minkus, pass this. And then he and Corey just go. Feeney says, please class, give Mr. Matthews your attention. And when he says that, Topanga realizes that he's Corey's brother. She goes, Matthews? And Eric goes, oh yeah, I'm Corey's older brother. I got the good hair. Anyway, next year, you guys will be 7th graders, or as we upperclassmen will be calling you, flimballs. There's going to be a few things you're going to need to know for survival on the mean streets of high school.
Is it common for junior high to be in the same building as high school?
Yeah, I was a little bit confused because our situation was 6th through 8th was junior high.
Like 7th grade is typically junior high. For us, it was different. I don't know a lot of other schools that had 6th grade be part of it.
I support this though. I support 7th grade being when you like are now a little fish in a big pond because 8th graders, let me tell you, when they're at the top of the food chain,
they think they are the bee's knees. I hated 7th grade. I hated it. Every kid in my class was just the most annoying kid. And they thought they were the coolest. And nobody ever shut the fuck up. We never got anything done because people would be talking in class. And then the teacher would be like, give us a silent treatment. It's like, I'm not going to do anything until you guys stop talking. And so people would just continue to talk. Yeah. And then I would just sit there and be like, guys, come on, let's pull it together. And we never would. And we never got our shit together. It was the worst. I hated it.
Oh my God. That is why I only taught middle school for 3 years and will never go back. So Minkus asks, will the exam process be more rigorous? And Eric's like, yeah. Parties are going to be a lot better too because you can stay out later. And Sean's like, all right. And Eric's like, and of course, cool clothes are a must. And he does like a 360. And I was like, that's not going to be my fashion moment just because you want it to be my fashion moment.
I was thinking the same thing. I mean, he did look good, but he's not my fashion moment.
It was very LL Bean catalog. Feeney's like, he makes a little side comment. He's like, for that young detention sitter on the go, which I thought was funny. Eric's like, yeah, you're going to want to know where the parking lot is too, because that's where the most popular kids hang. And you're going to want to hang with them unless, of course, you want to look like a complete nerd. No offense, Mink. And then Corey's like, I have a question. And then Eric's like, who cares? And Corey's like, Eric, this isn't like home. In here, when I raise my hand, you have to answer. Which I thought was funny. And then Eric's like, I do. And he like asks Feeney. So this is the moment where like Feeney and Eric kind of get on the same team for a second. And Eric's like, I do. And Feeney's like, I do too. Of course, like, all right. Now, next year, when you're 16 and driving to school, would you be willing to give a ride to a certain few select flemballs? And then Eric turns to Feeney again and he's like, do I have to? And Feeney's like, I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. Like, I just thought it was funny that he was like on his team for a second.
The little banter back and forth. I loved it.
Yeah. And then Eric just goes, drop dead. And then Corey plays dead. He like pretends to actually drop dead, which is like funny. It's like two brothers like horsing around in a classroom. And then Feeney plays along and just goes, how much do I owe you? Okay, theme music plays. We're in the kitchen. Topanga shows up. What I glazed over was we get some shots of Topanga all cartoon anime starry-eyed about Eric. So the audience should know that she has developed clearly an instantaneous crush on Eric Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
So Topanga shows up at Corey's house with freshly baked brownies. Corey's like, thanks for dropping them off, and like tries to push her out the door. And Topanga is like aggressive and is like, I thought I'd stay. And then, you know, she comes in. Sean's like, all right, milk's in the fridge, babe. And then I don't like that he calls her babe, by the way.
Yeah.
He takes a bite. He's like, hey, not bad. Topanga's like, my sister Nebby made them. Corey's like, Nebby? Do you mean Debbie? And Topanga's like, no, Nebby. It's short for Nebula. Nebula Stop the War Lawrence.
I need to meet the parents. Nebula Stop the War Lawrence.
That is such a good name. Also, I kind of love Nebula. Corey goes, so your parents thought like, what, Linda was already taken? And then Morgan comes down and she's like, hey, cool braid.
Oh my
And then
god.
Topanga's like,
That was a really good impression.
and Topanga's like, you like it? I can put one in your hair. And Morgan's like, you can? And then she goes to Corey. She's like, I'd like to see a lot more of her and a lot less of him. And pointing to Sean.
That was good. I'll give her that. Also,
That was a good line.
that braid is my fashion moment.
Oh my God.
I loved braids like that. And it reminded me of when I was their age, so like 5th, 6th grade, the big thing was braids with beads at the end, which like looking back, I'm like, oh no, we were all
Hair
white
ups.
doing that. And then also in 9th grade and 10th grade, feathers were really popular. Remember those little skinny feathers that you would have to like, it was like a permanent feather in your hair. You had to like go to a hair salon and get it done. It was like $100 a feather.
What?
Yeah.
When was this?
This was like a trend when I was early in high school. And
I was in college.
And our father, being a hairstylist, like hooked me up and got me a feather and put it in my hair. And it was in my hair permanently for like a couple months.
Our school let you do that?
Yeah. It was not in the dress code because there was nothing explicitly saying no feathers in your hair.
Sean is like, you know, poking at Corey, like, she has a crush on you, like Corey and Topanga sitting in a tree. Corey's like, no way, Minkus wants her. And Sean's like, you know, it has to start somewhere. See, Minkus gets squishy about Topanga. Topanga gets squishy about you. One day, you're solid as a rock. Next day, squish. And Corey's like, Topanga does not have a squish on me. I really I want to like normalize using the word squish instead of crush.
That is cute.
It's so cute.
I have a squish on you.
And, you know, Sean's like, hey, she brought you brownies. You know, she likes you. And Corey's like, yep, brownies, braids. She does it all. But now she has to do it all at home. And Topanga's like, but I was hoping I could stay. And Corey's like pushing her out the door like, you can't. We're over the legal hair limit of this room. I thought that was a good line. And then he closes the door and then he opens it again, grabs the brownies and closes the door again in her face. That's so mean. We're on the patio and Feeney meets Eric outside. They're both taking the garbage out. And Feeney says, Mr. Matthews, we seem to be on similar missions. And Eric says, hey, Mr. Feeney, how'd your class like my little pep talk today? And Feeney says, the class found you amusing and entertaining. And Eric says, but you didn't? And Feeney says, on the contrary, I found you both amusing and entertaining. I didn't, however, find you very informative. And Eric says, everything I told them about the parties and clothes is true. And Feeney says, well, that may be, but you didn't tell them the whole truth. And Eric says, like what? And Feeney says, well, like up until now, they've lived in a small, protected environment. Next year, it'll be like moving out of a small town into a big city. And Eric says, it's just a bigger school. And Feeney says, how easy is it to get drugs? And Eric says, I don't do drugs. And Feeney says, but if you wanted to. And Eric says, pretty easy. Feeney, alcohol? Eric, easier. Feeney, cigarettes? Eric, oh, come on, Mr. Feeney. I didn't want to bring them down with stuff like that. I mean, I wanted to give them something to look forward to. And Feeney says, Mr. Matthews, do you consider yourself popular, an influential voice in high school? Eric says, look, Mr. Feeney, I'm no role model. And Feeney says, yes. But the moment you stepped into that classroom, you became one.
That whole scene had me set. I was like, oh, damn.
And obviously, as an educator, that hit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of new teachers are very young when they start. I mean, 22, like young.
Mm-hmm.
And they need that message. The minute you step into that classroom, you're a role model.
Yep.
And everything that you say matters. And they're listening to everything that you say. And
Yeah.
they're copying you. You know, they're trying to emulate you.
Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of memories that I have that stay with me forever, whether they're good, bad, or even some neutral ones, right? But those memories stay with me. I can't imagine that amount of pressure on the teacher to like know that that is the case for every student that walks in their class for the amount of years that they're teaching. That is what's happening. Do you feel pressure? Did I make you feel weird?
So we're in the cafeteria. Topanga comes over. Sean's like, ooh, look, here comes the future Miss Corey Matthews. Topanga's like, hey, Corey. Corey's like, he has like a magazine in front of his face. He's like, Corey's not here. And Topanga just continues speaking. She's just like, my sister rented a videotape I thought you might be interested in seeing. And Corey's like, he left. You just missed him. And she just keeps talking. She's like, Godzilla goes to college. Corey's like, whoa. Sean's like, that's the one where Godzilla scarfs down UCLA. Corey's like, yeah, when can we borrow it? Topanga's like, you can't. It's my sister's tape. She said I can't let it out of my sight. Corey's like, okay, what time should we be over? Long story short, Topanga weasels her way into coming over to Corey's house to watch it. And they make a plan for the next day at 4. She leaves. Minkus comes over, calls Corey a maggot. Corey's like, huh? Minkus is like, all these years pretending to be my close friend. Corey's like, close? As in Philadelphia is close to Neptune? Minkus is like, oh, so you could get to her. Corey's like, her? Topanga? I don't think so. Minkus is like, oh, please. The whole school's talking about you two. Corey's like, what? I ate a couple brownies. I said I'd watched a video. And then Minkus goes, aren't you forgetting about the trip to Acapulco? Which I was like, what? And Sean goes, I embellished. Like, what? Even like off screen, Sean has ridiculous lines that are hilarious.
I did not realize how funny Sean is in season 1. Like, he's so ridiculous.
So Minkus is like, do you really care about her, or are you just doing this to humiliate me? And Corey's just like, I give up. Sean, go for it. Take it away. And Sean like places Minkus's head under his armpit, and he just goes, your bodyguard can't be with you 24 hours a day, Matthews. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
What do you think Minkus would do?
I don't think that I'm smart enough to devise the intricate plan that Minkus would come up with to destroy Corey Matthews.
Yeah. What do you think Minkus's sign is?
Oh, I love this question. He seems like a mix between a Scorpio and a Virgo. Little Capricorn energy too, because he's very ambitious. I think Sean's an Aries. I don't know why.
Yeah, he gives off Aries energy.
Is Corey a Capricorn?
Maybe we'll learn when his birthday is at some point.
Yeah. So when Sean releases Minkus's head, Minkus just turns to him and goes, I have 2 words for you. Antiperspirant. Kind of annoyed me because it's not 2 words.
Yeah, it's 1 word.
It's 1 word.
Minkus, right? You dumbass. I thought you were smart.
And then just as I was like, hey, that's 1 word, Sean goes, that's 3 words. And I thought that was funny because it happened at this, like my mind said something at the same time as Sean, and it was the opposite of what Sean said, and it made Sean look really dumb. So I think that was the intention, but it threw Minkus's intelligence under the bus for that joke, but it was a good one. So Corey goes, what's going on here? I don't want girls to like me. Why is everything changing? Sean's like, hey, Topanga forgot her notebook. Want to ruin it? I got a little extra mac and cheese left over. And of course, like, nah, she'll probably think it's some kind of love code. Why do I have to be so attractive? As he like brushes his Brillo hair. And Sean's like, ooh, it's a heart with a name doodled in swirly things. Mrs. Matthews. And Corey's like, give me a break. Mrs. Topanga Matthews. Corey's like, ugh. Sean's like, Mrs. Eric Matthews. Corey's like, what'd you get off my... What? Sean didn't react to that, which I thought was weird. Like, he should have been like, what? But he didn't. He was just like, Then we're in the bedroom.
I want to know, do you remember having a crush on an older kid back in like middle school? I totally had a flashback of me in 6th grade having a crush. Every girl had a crush on Joe Jensen. He was a year older than us, and he was so cute. I know, isn't it? He sounds like a detective in a children's book.
Henson.
And it brought me back to this specific memory that I had that I will never forget. I was outside during recess playing with the other kids, and Joe Jensen throws a football at his friend, and it hits me square in the face. And I was so excited because he came over. He was like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine, Joe Jensen. Thanks for asking. And then he walked away, and I was like, oh my God, he acknowledged me. That was like the best day of my 11-year-old's life.
Wait, so you were 11 and how old was he?
He was a year older. He was in
1 year.
He was in 7th grade. I was in 6th grade, which is a huge difference.
Not that crazy though. Like it's not. It's 1 year. Like you guys could have literally been like months apart too with the birthdays and how all that went.
Yeah. High school was different. Yes, like I definitely had crushes on people that were older than me, but they felt so out of reach to me where I more so thought of them as a god than anything else.
Yeah, they're not like real people.
Yeah, they're not tangible. I'm just like, I can look at you and then that's it.
I think when I was watching Boy Meets World as a kid, Eric was older and I did have a crush on Eric. I guess I was like Topanga's age and I was like having a crush on Eric too. And I was like,
yeah. Oh, if we're talking like TV celebrity crushes, you know who it is for me. Obviously.
Josh Hutcherson.
My boy Josh Hutcherson. Who was like the first prominent one for you?
Like a big one was definitely Josh Hartnett in specifically Pearl Harbor.
Yep. I'm looking at it right now. Woohoo! I might go watch it after this.
So we're in the bedroom. Corey says, Eric, I'm glad I caught you. We got to talk. Eric's like, not now. I'm headed down to the video arcade. Remember that? Corey goes, play games some other time. This is important. And Eric goes, hey, this is important too. And Corey goes, Eric, somebody's in love with you. And Eric's like, oh yeah? Who? Corey's like, Topanga Lawrence. You know, that hair in the front row with the girl attached? Eric's like, we're talking about a 6th grader? Later. Corey's like, I'm telling you, Eric, she loves you. And Eric's like, look, she's too young to have feelings like that. You're not going to fully understand it until you're 15. Corey's like, look, Eric, you gotta kiss her off. Get her out of your life and mine. Eric goes, you know, Corey, it sounds like you're jealous. I wanted to ask you about this. Did you get the impression that Corey liked Topanga or that he was jealous?
I did not get that impression.
Right? Like the way he played the character, I didn't get that impression.
Yeah. By the end, I felt like he might be into her, but I think that was after a lot of pressure to think about it because everybody was like, oh, you guys, you like each other. Oh, you like her. And he's like, no. And now he's like forced to think about it. He's like, maybe I do. I don't know.
Yeah, it was like one of those situations where like police will force a confession out of someone and they'll be like, you did it. You killed them. And they're like, I don't know. Maybe I did.
Maybe I did. I don't know. Yeah.
That's how I felt bad for Corey in this episode. I was like, why does everyone think he likes her? He doesn't like her. He's being so clear about it.
And I couldn't help but think, I was like, did they make it in the end because like they were peer pressured to be together? Like, did they actually like each other?
But like they kind of made it seem like he would have been asexual if it wasn't like pushed upon it. Like if Topanga wasn't pushed upon, like he's never considered anyone besides the person that everyone around him was like, you should probably like this person.
Yeah.
You know?
No, but I think that's pretty brilliant to show in a show like this. Because I'm sure that's a common experience for kids who were just at the cusp of starting to feel romantic feelings for people and like thinking about that differently. For some people, it's like they don't think about it until it's like forced on them.
I'm totally like that. I'm like so out of touch with myself. No, I like people. I do. But I always like people that are out of my league. I fall very hard for people that are 100% unavailable. Usually famous and also in a relationship. Like both.
Let's unpack that. Why do you think that is?
I am attracted to A, what I can have, but also B, stability and competence. The competence that comes with stability.
Yeah, you don't want somebody who's needy. But that you could find
People
that in somebody
relationships are
who But you can find all of those things with people that are not in relationships and are available and like you and are real.
I don't know.
They exist.
Do they?
I think they do.
There's just something unsatisfying about the messiness of reality. Like every character on TV has been written by a group of people. And so their character has a trajectory and a message. There's a purpose to characters on TV. I just want to exist inside of a show where everything makes sense.
A show or a book.
Or a book, yeah. Where everything's like heading somewhere. You know, life is very unpredictable.
Yeah, it is.
People are unpredictable. So poor Corey is being gaslit into falling in love with Topanga. He's like, oh yeah, I'm jealous. That's just what I want, to be Topanga's boyfriend. And then we can name our children Chewbacca and Plankton.
I remember that line so well, right? Because it was probably in all the promos. Plankton is objectively a hilarious name. And this show was also before SpongeBob. So it's like even funnier.
Yes. But also like it's funny because Plankton, it's so funny on so many levels. Plankton is also a name that she probably wouldn't give her kid. But that's the name that he would think that she would give her kid. Because he doesn't really know what a nebula is. A nebula is a beautiful star. It's an amazing thing to name your kid. But because for him, nebula is the same scientific jargon that means nothing as plankton, he just goes with plankton.
Or think about it, like they spent hours at the hospital delivering this baby and they're trying to figure out a name. And finally he's like, Plankton? Okay, fine. And they both agree on Plankton. Like, done. Plankton Marie Lawrence.
Plankton, stop the war, Lawrence. So Eric goes, okay, I'll get rid of her. What do you want me to say? And basically they agree that he's going to let Topanga down easy. Alan comes in and Alan and Corey have a little talk. So Corey tells Alan, this weird girl is into me. And Alan's like, okay, you're at that age where like every girl probably seems weird. And Corey's like, no, she's really weird. See, I thought she had a crush on me. She kept hanging around and doing things for me. And Alan's like, and you liked that? And Corey's like, no, I hated it. But then I found out she really likes Eric. And Alan's like, and you were relieved? And Corey's like, no. And Alan's like, disappointed? Corey's like, no. And Alan's like, confused? And Corey's like, see, Dad, you always know. And I was like, see, Corey is not into her. Like, he was just confused because it seemed like she liked him. And then she like that's a normal thing to feel. Yeah, he was just confused. It was like, oh, wait, what? But he wasn't jealous.
I thought of it like he's confused with his feelings for her now. That he might actually like her, but he can't identify that quite yet because he's young and he's trying to figure it out.
I've just felt kind of bad for Corey in this whole Topanga storyline because Topanga also pushed him against a locker and kissed him against his will.
Yes. Yeah.
And now everybody's like, you like her, right? And he's like, I feel like no one's listening to me. Like, he's just being gaslit.
Yeah, he is being gaslit this whole episode.
I feel so bad for him. So Alan's like, well, get used to being confused, pal, because girls are going to be rattling your cage for the next 60 years. Of course, like, till I'm 71? Good math, Core. And Alan goes, yeah, but then you get a break. And Corey goes, you do? And Alan goes, yeah, you die. Then we're in the living room. The doorbell rings. Eric answers, and it's Topanga. And Eric goes, Topanga, right? Have a seat. Topanga just sits on the floor in the doorway, holding the video like in front of her. And Eric's like, okay, that's an interesting way to go, but I was thinking couch. And Topanga's like, whatever you want. So Eric starts to try to convince her that like maybe Corey's the one she should be with. Topanga says that Eric's aura was glowing. Eric makes a comment about how his aura is too old for her to be looking at. And he's trying to convince her like she's too young to understand. And as he's trying to convince her of this, she like leans forward to kiss him. And he just like puts his hand on her face and stops her head from approaching his face. And he's just like, okay, I was wrong. Maybe you are ready. Look, Corey told me about you, and he told me that you're very smart. And Topanga's like, I don't have to be smart. Girl. Oh, man. And Eric's like, I mean, you've known me for like 5 minutes, and you think you like me because you thought I was cute. And who could blame you? But a real relationship is based on much more than looks. And if you're old enough to have these feelings, then you should know that. Topanga's like, you are so wise. And then the doorbell rings and Eric keeps talking. And he's like, yes, I am. And that wisdom comes from knowing that if you have a relationship based on looks, it's stupid and superficial. He opens the door. It's Nebula, Topanga's sister. And she goes, hi, I'm Topanga's sister. And Eric goes, hi, I'm stupid and superficial.
Because she's his age, seemingly.
And she's his age. We should clarify that, yes.
Yeah.
And she's very pretty. Poor Topanga's like, I think I'd like to go home. And then Corey comes down. Is she gone? Oh no, more hair. Looking at Nebby because she also has big hair. Then we get sad music. Topanga is sad. Then we're in the classroom. And Feeny, he's reading a poem called The Cremation of Sam McGee. And on the board behind him, it says, today, American poetry. But this poem was written by a Canadian poet. He is reading The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service, a Scottish-Canadian poet. And this poem was actually published in Canada in 1907. But it does reference Tennessee, so I understand why he maybe put it in the bucket with American poetry. And if we're thinking North America as one America, North and South America as the Americas, okay. Eric comes back in. And Eric goes, so a couple of days ago, I pretty much covered the big high school picture, but I left out one little tiny detail. You've all known each other since, like, kindergarten. But next year, there's going to be maybe 9 or 10 other 6th grade classes from different schools making up your 7th grade class. And you're not going to know all those kids. A lot of them are going to think differently than you. Minkus like, what do you mean? And Eric's like, well, do you smoke cigarettes? And Minkus goes, no. And he says it like, no. And Eric's like, a lot of kids in your new school will. A lot of them are going to try to pressure you into it. They're going to tell you how cool it is to smoke. You want to be cool, don't you? Minkus goes, more than you could ever know. And Eric's like, maybe you'll smoke. And Minkus goes, I don't think so. And Eric goes, why not? And Minkus goes, because according to the New England Journal of Medicine, smoking reduces lung capacity, leads to emphysema, and causes heart attack and lung cancer. And Eric goes, well, what if she thought it was cool? Pointing to Topanga. Then would you smoke? And Minkus, without missing a beat, goes, in a heartbeat. And Eric goes, welcome to the world of peer pressure. So he smokes. Do you think that's cool? Pointing to Topanga. Topanga turns to Minkus and just goes, I think anyone who smokes is a disgusting pig. And Minkus goes, I'm trying to quit. Eric goes, well, it's not that easy, Minkus. There's all kinds of pressure. I mean, what about alcohol? And Minkus just goes, can you use somebody else as an example, please? And Eric kind of laughs. It's really cute, actually. Eric is a good actor always, but this scene, I like the way he did it. He was like, sure. What about alcohol? And he points to someone else. I think he points to Corey. And Corey goes, what about it? And Eric goes, what about drugs? And he points to Sean. And Corey interrupts and goes, hey, calm down, Eric. We're not into that stuff. All we like is baseball and comic books. And Eric goes, yeah, that's what you like now, but that's going to change. Just like you're changing schools, just like you're going to start feeling a lot of new stuff inside you you're not really going to understand. And Cora goes, how do you know? And Eric goes, because you're growing up. Some of you have already started.
I think that is so powerful to tell a kid that age. And I think the way that he talked about drugs and alcohol and smoking, it's very easy to be like, hey, kids, don't do those things. But I think talking about it from the lens of peer pressure is critical, because I think that is 100% the reason why people do that. It's like you're told like, oh, you should not smoke because all of these horrible things will happen to you. It's like, okay, great. Like I won't do that. But hey, what if I said that your best friend smokes? Would you do it?
Yeah.
You know, like that kind of feeding that into the conversation is so important.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of the times the peer pressure is actually coming from the kids who are like being super responsible with it and who have parents that have kind of like just have a different approach to this stuff. And that's at least what I see a lot of the time. Like I see a lot of frustration among parents who are raising the kids in this like sober, you know, like no, just no weed, no. Like you're underage, B, it's not good for you, don't ever smoke weed ever. And then they meet like friends at school that are like, what are you talking about? My parents smoke weed all the time and like it's fine. And they smoked a bunch in high school, and so they know that like I'm gonna do it, and so they say it's fine. And even like they give me weed sometimes and like, you know, whatever. You know, like, and then you're just like confused because you're like, I've only ever heard that it was horrible and bad and, you know, you should never do it. And now I'm getting this different perspective on it. And I think that needs to be addressed a little bit more too. Because what do you do? You know, 9 times out of 10, you start smoking because you're like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. That actually makes sense because a lot of people smoke, you know, and all these people are still walking around and, you know, it seems like it's actually fine. And then you just do it.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not really seeing the negative effects right in front of your face.
And, you know, if you're young, like taking a puff of cigarettes, like you're going to probably feel fine after. You're not going to like crumble over,
get cancer.
Like, you know, you just don't think about it that way. Yeah. It's a different mindset when you're so young and your frontal cortex is not fully developed. Like you let a lot of things invincible. Slide. You feel invincible. Absolutely. Yeah. Totally.
100%. And smoking makes you look cool, and social status is all that matters. Your body,
yes, that is
and
all
its health
that matters.
Does not matter.
No.
Yeah.
But your body's also so resilient at that age too. But you're too naive to understand the lasting effects of that, and also the addiction that could come out of it, and all that stuff.
Yep. The hard thing for parents and teachers is like for a lot of kids, they are going to have to go through that adventure themselves. Like they're going to have to get addicted to it and feel all those negative effects and then become sober or develop a healthier relationship, whatever the thing is. You know, probably the best class I ever took in my life, with the exception of one in college, but for this point that I'm making, was Mr. DeMarco's health class.
Oh my God, yes. That was one of the best classes I've ever taken.
Just chef's kiss perfection.
It was.
He basically just went through every single substance scientifically. Like he just broke it down chemically, what it was, and you know what it does to you when you take it, how you take it into your body. So whether it's like taken in through a syringe or crushed up and snorted or, you know, taken orally or all of the above, right? Like, and he just like, he went through like, this is cocaine, this is crack cocaine, this is like everything.
Matter of fact, yes.
Like it was a robot just telling you everything. And then he would explain like, this is what happens. These are the short-term effects. These are the long-term effects. Like, and you know, it was so brilliant.
He also took the most incredible detour, spending weeks
I know exactly
talking about Pablo Escobar.
Yes. He was obsessed with Pablo Escobar.
We know so much about Pablo Escobar. He's fascinating, and it kept us so engaged in the class to learn about his whole life. Oh my God.
Oh my God. It was such a good class because it was like it left you just going like, okay, now I know. Now I know what it is. I'm not going to find out on the streets. Like I'm not going to find out what heroin is by trying it because I have no idea what it is. Yeah, exactly. And if all you've heard about like fentanyl is that like it's the cool new drug on the streets.
Yeah.
Like, I hope that's not what you've heard. Oh my God. But like, you know what I mean? Then you just like have no idea what you're getting into. You just like try it because you're like, I don't know. It could be just the same as weed. I loved Eric's talk. I thought it was great. I thought it was just impactful, and in hearing it from a quote unquote like cool high school kid, you listen, and I think that was done really well was they showed like the kids really listening. And then of course, Eric rising to the occasion and realizing that the kids care about what he thinks and he can have a really big impact on them, or he just like naturally, just because of like the vessel that he's in, he has a lot of responsibility. And so, yeah, I just love that he came back and he fixed it, And it was interesting that the situation with Topanga helped him discover that because he hadn't considered that she would feel so strongly about him having met him for like 5 minutes. And so to see her be like so enamored with him, he was like, whoa, like just the fact that I'm this older presence.
And I did resonate with him not realizing how much power he has because I find that in myself day to day in certain situations where for him, he's like walking into a classroom and I feel like he's trying to be the person that he would want to see, which is this like cool high school kid who like knows where all the parties are at and all that stuff. But he's very unaware of how much of an influence he has on these kids until an adult tells him, an adult as amazing as Mr. Feeney tells him, like, no, like, whether you like it or not, they are looking up to you, so you better make it count, whatever you have to say.
Awesome. Okay, we're in the classroom. Minkus is plucking his paper flower. She loves me not. Corey's like, look at him. Sean's like, the love bomb has blown his head off. Corey's like, this is big. This love thing could kill us if we let it. You and I have to make a deal right now. Let everyone else go nuts. Sean goes, but we stay the same. And then they shake hands forever. And as they're shaking hands, they hold onto each other's hands and some pretty new girl walks over. Excuse me, I'm new here. How do I get to the principal's office? And they're still holding hands. And Corey just Sean looks at Corey like, uh-oh. And Corey's like, we made a deal. And then Sean looks back at the girl. He looks back at Corey. And Corey's like, we have a deal. And Sean's like, the principal's office? I've been there 1,000,000 times. LOL. I know exactly where it is. I'll take you. And Corey's like, we have a deal. Sean gets up and he's like pulling Corey behind him because Corey won't let go of his hand. And Sean's trying to walk the girl to the principal's office. And they literally like the cafeteria table gets like dragged across the floor because Corey's like, no, he's like trying to hold him back. We have a deal. And that's the end of the episode. Freeze frame. And then we get a little button. Minkus is teaching Corey and Sean French. Eric walks in and basically says like, who cares how the French talk? I like how they kiss. So Eric is still being the role model that teaches them about sex and drugs. Anyway, that was the episode. What were your takeaways?
My takeaway is that I have been reminded that I am always a role model to people that are younger than me, whether I realize it or not, in any situation. And it's historically something that I have not been used to. I haven't really needed to. But any situation that I'm in with a kid, like I have to be some sort of role model because they will remember that to a degree. And so it's important to always kind of be considering them in any given moment.
I think this is the first time our takeaways are exactly the same. Yep. Especially with my students. I got to make sure that the things that I'm saying offhand aren't swaying them. You know, like I'm actually already kind of nervous about the fact that I have a podcast where I'm basically drinking wine in every episode. And look, you know, your opinions about alcohol aside, alcohol is poison. Like it is. We put it in our bodies and it's socially accepted, but it's not good for you. And it is addicting. And the fact that it's normalized is kind of crazy. And so the fact that I'm normalizing drinking wine is I'm feeling a little bit of discomfort with that and worrying and wondering if my students who find out that I have this podcast are gonna think it's cool to drink wine, or are gonna at least be like, oh, okay, Miss Brie drinks wine, so it's fine, or like, I don't know. There's a drinking age, and I am above that drinking age, and therefore, I am, showing them that when you are an adult, you can enjoy wine. All right. Well, that's it for the episode. Thanks so much for listening. This week's wine was Yellowtail Chardonnay. And next week's episode is the B team of life. Corey Matthews is put on the B team for basketball at school and begins to feel like he's on the B team with his family as well. Thanks for listening. Cheers.
Cheers.